This is the morning of the 15th of November. I love it where they have these signs. The Honorable Kash Patel. What's honorable about this cross-eyed FBI director? Huh? This guy should be working at 7-Eleven behind a cash register. NARCOG report files. Crockett revealed 2.3 terabytes of Epstein files destroyed. 89 seconds later, Patel had meltdown. Now, if they're destroying this kind of information, shouldn't they be held accountable? Remember the coined comment that I made? Who are you going to go to? I mean, who are you really going to go to? Pam Bondi's as crooked as a rattlesnake or a sidewinder. And Kash Patel, he ain't a whole lot better. Let's see what's in this clip. It plays for 16 and a half minutes.
In just 89 seconds, 2.3 terabytes of evidence and 47 implicated names were about to detonate the biggest cover-up in federal law enforcement history. Patel didn't expect the classified documents. Crockett didn't expect a complete screaming meltdown. Cameras captured every explosive second. Congress watched their FBI director completely lose control in a violent outburst that shocked America. What did Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett reveal about Jeffrey Epstein's evidence that made Kash Patel explode into the most unhinged breakdown ever witnessed on Capitol Hill? March 22nd, 2025, 2:47 p.m. Room 254 of the Rayburn House office building crackled with tension as the House Intelligence Committee prepared for what would become the most explosive hearing in congressional history. The afternoon shadows cast dramatic lighting across mahogany desks as members shuffled classified folders marked with red top secret stamps. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett entered the chamber like a prosecutor who had just uncovered the crime of the century. The 42-year-old Texas Democrat moved with surgical precision, carrying a briefcase that would soon unleash documentary evidence, so damning it would destroy careers and potentially topple the entire federal law enforcement apparatus. Behind wire-rimmed glasses, Crockett's eyes burned with the focused intensity of someone who had spent months building an airtight case against institutional corruption. As a former prosecutor with national security background, she understood evidence preservation, and today she would expose years of systematic evidence destruction designed to protect the most powerful predators in American society. At exactly 2:47 p.m., FBI Director Kash Patel walked into the chamber like a strategist who believed his intelligence background made him untouchable. His Navy suit projected federal authority, FBI badge gleaming under harsh committee lights, leather briefcase containing talking points about operational security and classification protocols that would prove utterly inadequate against the evidence tsunami about to hit. At 45, Patel had survived numerous congressional confrontations through aggressive deflection and bureaucratic stonewalling. But today, he faced something entirely different. Documented evidence, the most systematic evidence destruction operation in FBI history, conducted to protect a network of child predators that reached the highest levels of American government. The Intelligence Committee chamber buzzed with unprecedented tension. Unlike routine oversight hearings, today's session carried the electric atmosphere of a criminal trial. C-SPAN cameras positioned for maximum coverage, while investigative reporters from every major network filled the press gallery, sensing they were about to witness something historic. Constitutional scholars and legal experts scattered throughout the audience recognized they were about to see either the most brilliant congressional investigation in modern history or the complete collapse of institutional accountability. The classified nature of Crockett's evidence had created rumors for weeks about nuclear-level revelations that would reshape American politics. Chairman Mike Turner gaveled the session to order with unusual gravity. The committee will now examine FBI evidence management protocols and classification procedures related to high-profile federal investigations. The formal language couldn't mask the explosive nature of what was coming. Everyone in the chamber understood this was about Jeffrey Epstein and the evidence that had mysteriously disappeared after his death. Patel opened with his standard bureaucratic confidence. Congresswoman Crockett, I appreciate this opportunity to address unfounded conspiracy theories about FBI evidence protocols. The Bureau maintains the highest standards of evidence preservation and follows all federal guidelines for classified material management. Let him finish, her fingers drumming silently on the briefcase containing 4 years of investigation. When Patel concluded with a confident nod, Crockett leaned forward with the intensity of a federal prosecutor about to present evidence to a grand jury. Director Patel, let's discuss your evidence preservation standards through specific documentation rather than general assurances. Crockett opened her briefcase with theatrical precision, revealing folders marked with FBI classification stamp. Does the FBI currently possess evidence seized from Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan residence in July 2019? The question seemed routine, but Patel's micro-expressions revealed immediate discomfort. His eyes darted to the classified folders, then back to Congresswoman, matters involving ongoing investigations and classified evidence cannot be discussed in open session. Ongoing investigations? Crockett repeated with prosecutorial precision. Director, Jeffrey Epstein died in August. What investigation could still be ongoing after 5.5 years? The logical trap was perfect. If investigations were complete, evidence should be preserved. If they were ongoing, Patel would need to explain what the FBI had been investigating for over 5 years without producing results. At 2:49 p.m., exactly 2 minutes into Crockett's questioning, she delivered the first document that would begin Patel's systematic destruction. Director, let me refresh your memory with this FBI Evidence Analysis Unit memorandum. Dated August, Crockett held up a document bearing official FBI letterhead, classification markings clearly visible to cameras and committee members. The chamber fell silent as she began reading evidence that had been buried for years. Quote, Epstein evidence inventory contains 2,027 digital storage devices from multiple residences, including approximately 2.3 terabytes of video surveillance content. Initial analysis has identified 47 individuals, including current and former federal officials, Supreme Court justices, congressional members, and foreign intelligence assets. The numbers hit the chamber like physical blows. 2.3 terabytes, 47 individuals, Supreme Court justices, congressional members. The scope of implication was staggering, suggesting Jeffrey Epstein's network had compromised the highest levels of American government. Patel's face drained of color as classified evidence was read into the public record. His hands visibly trembled as he reached for his water glass. Congresswoman, that document is classified and cannot be discussed in open session. This document was declassified through proper congressional oversight procedures, Crockett replied with devastating calm, but let me continue with the FBI's recommendations. Her voice rose with controlled outrage as she read the next section. Quote, Recommendation, classify all materials as top secret compartmented. Disclosure. Director Patel, why did the FBI recommend hiding evidence of crimes committed by federal officials? The question exposed the moral core of the scandal. Evidence of crimes shouldn't be classified to protect criminals. It should be used to prosecute them. The FBI's recommendation revealed systematic corruption designed to protect powerful predator. Classification decisions involve complex national security considerations, Patel replied weakly, his bureaucratic confidence evaporating under documentary evidence. But Crockett was just getting started. She removed a second document that made several committee members audibly gasp. Director, let me read from this Department of Justice internal communication, dated September 2019. The DOJ letterhead was clearly visible as Crockett delivered the most damning evidence yet. Quote, Analysis confirms surveillance materials implicate sitting federal judge, 3 current senators, 12 House members and multiple intelligence community officials. Attorney General has determined prosecution would destabilize federal government operation, recommend permanent classification and evidence destruction within 80 days to preserve institutional integrity. The revelation that the Attorney General had personally ordered evidence destruction to protect government officials sent shockwaves through the chamber. This wasn't bureaucratic mismanagement. This was systematic conspiracy at the highest levels of the Justice Department. Social media exploded instantly. 23 terabytes covered began trending within minutes, followed by 84 names and Patel meltdown. Twitter servers strained under the volume of shares and comments as Americans processed that their government had systematically destroyed evidence to protect child predators. CNN broke into regular programming with breaking FBI director implicated in systematic evidence destruction. Fox News found themselves covering explosive evidence against a Trump appointee, their anchors visibly struggling with the implications, but Crockett saved her most devastating evidence for last. At 2:51 p.m., she removed a document that would trigger Patel's complete psychological breakdown. Director Patel, this is FBI headquarters evidence destruction order dated December 15th, 2000. Let me read the key passage. Crockett's voice carried the moral authority of someone exposing systematic evil. Quote, the DOJ directive and White House coordination initiate immediate destruction of all Epstein surveillance materials. Priority destruction files implicating federal judiciary, congressional members and intelligence officials. Document destruction as routine evidence retention compliance. Any technicians discussing these operations face immediate termination and federal prosecution. This operation carries presidential authority. The final sentence, presidential authority, was the smoking gun that connected evidence destruction directly to the White House. This wasn't rogue FBI action. This was systematic cover-up ordered from the highest levels of government. At 2:52 p.m., exactly 89 seconds after Crockett began her devastating document presentation, Kash Patel experienced complete psychological breakdown that would shock America and end his career in the most violent congressional outburst in modern history. This is disgraceful congressional harassment. Patel exploded, his voice cracking as he shot to his feet. You're weaponizing oversight to attack federal law enforcement. The sudden eruption sent shockwaves through the chamber. FBI directors don't scream at congressional committees. The loss of professional control was unprecedented and devastating. But Crockett had anticipated this moment. Rising to her feet, she matched Patel's volume with controlled fury. Harassment? Director, you destroyed evidence of crimes committed by federal judges and senators. You followed presidential orders to obstruct justice. How dare you question the FBI's integrity? Patel screamed back, his face flushed red with rage. While you engage in partisan destruction of federal institutions, we protect national security. The screaming match continued for a full minute, unprecedented in congressional history. C-SPAN cameras captured every second as America watched their FBI director completely lose control under the weight of evidence he couldn't deny. Integrity, Crockett roared back with devastating finality. You call destroying evidence integrity. You call protecting pedophiles integrity. You call following illegal presidential orders integrity. Patel's response revealed the complete collapse of his professional facade. We protect the Republic from partisan witch hunts. You're destroying American institutions. The chamber erupted in chaos. Security officers moved toward the witness table as committee members shouted for order. Chairman Turner banged his gavel repeatedly. But the damage was done. The FBI director had suffered a complete breakdown on live television. As Patel stood trembling with rage, Crockett delivered her final devastating blow. Director, your own documents prove you destroyed evidence to protect child predators. That's not protecting the Republic. That's betraying everything it's for. The moral clarity was undeniable. Faced with documentary evidence of systematic evidence destruction, Patel had responded with screaming rage rather than horror or accountability. At 2:54 p.m., Chairman Turner suspended the hearing as Patel was escorted from the chamber by FBI security personnel, his career destroyed by 89 seconds of evidence he couldn't explain and rage he couldn't control. Within hours, both Republican and Democratic members were calling for Patel's immediate resignation. Even conservative senators who had supported his appointment couldn't defend someone who had screamed at Congress while being confronted with evidence of systematic cover-up. Legal experts universally agreed that Patel's documented involvement in evidence destruction constituted federal crimes. Former federal prosecutors noted that destroying evidence to protect criminals was textbook obstruction of justice, regardless of presidential authorization. The international reaction was swift and devastating. Allied intelligence services privately questioned whether they could trust an FBI that systematically destroyed evidence to protect government officials. The damage to America's reputation for rule of law would take years to repair. By evening, 3 senior FBI officials had resigned, citing their inability to serve under a director who had participated in evidence destruction. FBI field officers reported agents expressing concern about the integrity of their leadership. At midnight, facing overwhelming bipartisan pressure and potential criminal prosecution, Kash Patel submitted his resignation letter. The man who had screamed about protecting institutions had instead become the symbol of their corruption. The 89 seconds when Crockett exposed Patel's evidence destruction became a watershed moment in congressional oversight. Documentary evidence had overcome institutional secrecy, and systematic corruption had been forced into daylight. Sometimes the strongest weapon against institutional corruption isn't political power or media attention. It's classified documents properly declassified by someone who understands that some truths are too important to hide. What happens when systematic evidence destruction meets systematic congressional investigation? Can institutional cover-ups survive when documents tell the truth? Kash Patel learned these lessons when 89 seconds of evidence destroyed a career built on protecting powerful predators at the expense of their victims. If this documentary accountability restored your faith in congressional oversight, don't just like, share, and subscribe to our channel.
You know, I hope this is true. I'm going to have to do a little bit of investigation to make sure that this cross-eyed 7-Eleven cash register operator did in fact resign. And what's frightening is that he was ordered to do it, to destroy those documents by the White House. You can't make this stuff up, folks. It's like I said, who are you going to go to? I'll attach the link. Again, I'm going to do a bit of research to make sure that this cross-eyed FBI director did actually resign. You think his 26-year-old girlfriend is going to keep screwing him? Because I don't.